right, we're up to 40 something. Okay. So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay. Okay. You should all be able to see my screen now. Wonderful. All right. So a more formal good morning to everyone. I'm Parag Prasad, and I congratulate you all. First of all, we're all busy running our businesses, so congratulations for taking the hour this morning to invest in tackling your marketing challenges. And my goal actually is to make this the best hour of marketing, education, and coaching that you've ever had. That's a pretty bold goal, Parag. Yes. So how on earth am I going to do that? Well, knowledge about marketing, about growing your business, about getting clients, knowledge is abundant. It's all out there on the internet. It's abundant. The challenge is how to practically apply knowledge. So today I've been a coach running my coaching practice for 17 years now. My team and I have coached more than 600 business owners. So today I've condensed a lot of what I see as the best, most practical strategies to help you. So we're not talking about strategies here for big businesses with big budgets. I'm talking about practical strategies for small and medium enterprises, which is who we coach. I'm going to be sharing a lot of those insights over the next 55 minutes. I'm also going to be asking you some I suppose, some searching questions, and that's deliberate. I want you to think very honestly about the answers to those questions and what the implication is for you. And also after today, there's a second part to this as well, which is a more bespoke one-to-one session where we'll go into more detail specifically on the areas that come out today that you feel you want more help with. That's something we offer all CAP members after our webinars. I know some of you have already met my colleague Cooks, who's done a number of these online workshops for you over the last 2 years. And I'm running today's session, but we're both colleagues in our business. But that's my goal today. So where to start with this? The first thing I want to ask you, I said I was going to ask you some searching questions, and actually the first thing is about your mindset. And we call this the point of choice. And if you think about some of the challenges you're facing with marketing, with client acquisition generally, you have a choice about how to respond. So you can choose to have a mindset where there's blame or excuses or denial for what's really going on. You can choose to do that. And look, it's very easy to do that. Business is a challenging environment, and there's always ups and downs when it comes to client acquisition. So it's very easy to fall into that trap, but it is a trap, because when we fall into that mindset, then nothing changes, nothing improves, because the reason for those issues lies outside of ourselves. So, and we use this concept with every single person we coach. I'm using it with you today, that whatever that challenge is, whatever that blame or excuse you may have, the challenge for you is to change that mindset and say, okay, maybe we've got fewer leads at the moment. Maybe there's challenges with the economy or the industry or competition or whatever the challenge is. The challenge for you is to think about, well, what is it that you could be doing better or differently, rather than just blaming outside circumstances. So I just want you all to think about that question, actually. And if you've got any thoughts on it, in the chat box, if you think honestly about your response to some of those marketing and lead challenges, is there someone you're blaming? Is there an excuse you're always defaulting to? Because if that's the case, that's not a source of improvement. And if there is, yeah, make a note or share it. You may not be comfortable sharing it, but make a note, because that's a mindset that will just keep you stuck if it's always a reason outside of yourself. So I just wanted to get you thinking about that, guys. And look, I'll just do a super quick introduction about myself as well, because most of you don't know me. But I've been running this practice for 17 years. I actually used to be a chartered accountant. I was bored and unfulfilled. And I had the opportunity 17 years ago. I was approached by an organization called Action Coach, and they said, "Hey, Parag, would you like to be a business coach?" And I was like, no idea what that means. But 6 months later, I took the plunge, quit my career as an accountant, and went off to be trained as a coach. I'm still trained and mentored by that organization to this day. Since then, I've grown a successful practice, one of the largest practices in the world now for coaching, and great team, amazing team. And I think the interesting thing here is that we've actually quadrupled our business over the last 10 years. And why do I share that? Because not necessarily to boast, but really to say the fact that we are using the strategies and the techniques that I'm sharing with you today. We use this stuff as well to grow our own business, as well as those we coach. And our programs have become very successful. We have a program called a group program, which has been ranked the best of its kind for the last 10 years in a row, which I'm super, super proud of. And as a result of applying what I've learned with as a coach, as a result of applying that and growing my own practice and growing, I suppose, growing my income, I've also been able to use that money to invest and become financially independent myself. I'm now an investor in some other businesses as well. I've started a not-for-profit as well. And so my point here is this is practical things that you or I could do. I was an accountant. I didn't know anything about business 17 years ago, but I've learned to take this practical knowledge and education and apply it. And it's a privilege to do what I do, because the reason I got into this is because if anyone of you knows the stats around business success, or rather failure in this country, they're actually tragic. And I've looked this up a few times on various government websites, and somewhere between 60 to 80% of businesses in this country don't make it to their first 5 years of trading. They've gone. And even those that do make it to 5 years, so if you made it to 5 years, congratulations. But even those who've made it to 5 years, 60 to 80% then don't make it through to 10 years. So the interesting thing about that stat is that stat has been a recurring stat historically, irrespective of what's going on in the economy, irrespective of credit crunches or COVID or boom times. That stat has recurred historically. And so what that tells us all is that it can't be the external factors that are leading to smaller businesses struggling. It can't be that, because it's that the stats are the same. And what I've seen over the years is that actually it's an internal issue. It's not necessarily lack of knowledge. Well, it is in some cases, but it's a lack of practical understanding of how to use that knowledge and actually benefit from it in a business. So as I said, that's what I want to impart with you today, is that practical knowledge. And we use that with those we coach, and those we coach, they're actually growing their average revenue. We track this with them. Their average revenue growth is 34% per annum. So that's why I'm highlighting the fact that this is practical, and I want you to take whatever you get from today and use it. It's designed to be usable quickly and for you to get results. So I hope you have your pens ready. How did I come to be here today? Well, actually about 10, 11 years ago, I was actually delivering a very similar workshop live for the architect profession, and Chris Williamson was in the audience, and he came up to me at the end. He was the part of the REBA board at the time, and he said to me, "Parag, we need this in the profession." And so I started coaching his practice. He runs Weston Williamson and Partners, which is a major practice who worked on the Crossrail project. And I started coaching him, and my team and I have coached many, many more practices in the profession. And as a result of the successes we've had there, we're now coaching engineers and members of your community as well now. And that's why now we're doing more and more workshops and CPDs for you all. So You're all here for the same reason, I believe. You want to grow. Either you want to grow your lead numbers from your marketing, your client numbers, of course, and ultimately the revenues for your practice. You're all here to achieve that goal. But do you know how you're going to do that? Do you have any kind of plan on how you'll do that? And one of the most common mistakes that we see with people who want to grow those numbers is that there is often, I use the analogy here of driving a car, and they're trying to go from where they are now to another destination. There's no fuel in the tank. There's no fuel in the tank to get them there. And that fuel is marketing. Marketing is the fuel to generate growth of any business. And a lot of smaller businesses have an over-reliance on referrals. And so, again, one of my honest questions is, are you relying on referrals as your most important or most significant lead strategy? Now, referrals are a good thing. Absolutely, we should all be getting referrals. We get loads of referrals. I'm sure you do as well. But the challenge with referrals is they're out of your control. In other words, if you get a few referrals that month, great. What if you don't? What if you don't? What's your plan B? How else are you generating lead flow? And that's what I mean by an underinvestment in marketing. If there's an over-reliance on referrals, there's no other consistent source of leads. We would advocate a minimum of 3 active lead generation strategies every single month. Minimum 3, ideally 3 to 10, actually. Even 3 is risky because if 1 or 2 are not working that month, which does happen in marketing, then again, you're reliant on one strategy. It's not a great recipe for consistent growth. So minimum 3. So that's my first challenge today is, are you even at 3? So just throwing out a newsletter or email campaigns once in a while, that's not consistent. That's not every month. So we need consistency. And we need a minimum 3. Otherwise, yeah, you're trying to drive the car with no petrol. And so it's a very common mistake. I'm not putting referrals down. Referrals are great, but we can't just, there's no business I know. It's certainly risky to be relying just on referrals. It's a risk because it's out of your control. Now, so I think a lot of this comes down to your mindset around marketing, what I call a marketing mindset. And if you think about what I call the accountants versus entrepreneurs mindset. So an accountant might look at for example, your P&L. And if they're a proactive accountant anyway, they might look at your P&L and go, oh, look at this. I can see your marketing expense has gone up. And they might say, well, you've got to watch that. You've got to be careful. It might affect your profit. And that's an accountant's job to look at expenses and monitor those and make sure they're not out of hand. But an entrepreneurial mindset would look at marketing very differently, because their mindset is that, yes, we may well need to, well, in fact, they wouldn't say they may well, they will be investing money in marketing. If you're not investing money and budget in marketing, you don't have a marketing mindset. And I know that's a challenge. And look, when I started my business 17 years ago, I had very little budget. It was just me. I didn't even have a computer. I started my business on a borrowed computer in my living room. You know, that was challenging with very little money for marketing. But ultimately, a true entrepreneurial mindset, someone who understands how to grow a business consistently, understands they have to invest in marketing. Budget in terms of money and or time. Ideally both. Because that mindset understands that marketing, it's an investment. You are investing that money and time to generate more leads than you might have now. They understand it's an investment, just as you'd invest in team members in order to help you grow. You invest in marketing to help you grow. Now that kind of makes sense. And you know, if I give an extreme example, guys, an extreme example, I coached a business called Propercorn. They're a global popcorn maker. You may have heard of them and seen them in the supermarkets. And when I started coaching them, they were just 8 people. They were turning over about $1.5 million. But they had probably the most extreme marketing mindset I've ever seen. And they understood that they had very, very big ambitions for their business. And so they invested very heavily in marketing. In fact, in our second year working together, they invested their entire year's turnover, sales income, in marketing, which I'm not advocating, by the way, but because that's risky. They actually went out and borrowed several and got investor funding and put most of it into marketing. Now that's, you know, that's a very different mindset, but they did end up growing from 1.5 to 12 million in 3 years. So it worked, and they had to manage those risks. But my point being, that's not the right budget for practically any business, because it's very risky and you've got to know what you're doing. But the mindset is they invested a lot in marketing to drive faster growth. So it's just a mindset. It's not about how much money you're putting in. It's let's get the mindset right first. Now, investing anything can be scary. I'm sure some of you are thinking, and look, I'm sure you've all heard of this, the concept of the comfort zone. And that in order to move forward with our businesses, in order to move forward in our lives, we need to get out of our comfort zone. We need to get out of there into what I call the courage zone. That's where you can grow. That's where you need to be. We've all heard of it. Not easy to do. Not easy to do. But what I'd say to you is I want you to think about at least one task when it comes to marketing and lead generation that maybe you've resisted because you're uncomfortable with it. And that's why you're not doing it. And I want you to think about what that is. You may have more than one. And again, if you want to share that in the chat, you're welcome to. But I want you to reflect on that question. What is a task that you resisted? Because if it's something that's going to help you grow, then you need to overcome that I suppose that fear. Fear is natural, by the way. Fear is a natural human emotion. And what I get to see as a coach is that everyone running a business, no matter how successful, is scared. There's things they're fearful of. It's completely normal, guys. Completely normal. But if we let that fear stop us taking action, then it will have a detrimental impact on the business. So just acknowledge to yourself and write it down. What is that task relating to marketing or sales that you're uncomfortable with? Because being uncomfortable is fine. Doing nothing about it is not so fine. And the first step about overcoming anything you're uncomfortable with is to learn. Is to learn more about it. If it's, for example, if it's something like this, for example, public speaking. I practically public speak for a living for 17 years. I'm deeply comfortable with it. But not when I started. Not when I started 17 years ago. So I had to learn. I had coaches and mentors. I had podcasts and books to help me understand how to do this so that I overcame that fear. I mean, it was still scary. I still even had a few butterflies this morning, would you believe? I've done this goodness knows how many thousands of times. At 1 minute to 10, I was about to let you all in, and I still had butterflies in my stomach. So there's always going to be that discomfort and fear, always. But learning is the first step forward in overcoming that. Now, Another way to overcome that discomfort is to understand the results you're getting from your marketing, your ROI, return on investment. And hopefully you'll know this. Because otherwise, how can you imagine trying to put more money and time into marketing, but you don't know the results? You don't know what's working, what isn't. Well, then it's like a gamble. Marketing becomes a gamble. You might as well go to a casino and put $5,000 on red and hope for the best, because that's how it feels. And that's why a lot of people resist it, because they don't know the results. So you need to be, again, hopefully you're doing this. You need to be measuring the results of your marketing. You need to be measuring. So what are you measuring? What data or numbers are you measuring when it comes to your growth, your marketing, your sales? I would love, please, I mean, I said I'm here to ask you questions deliberately because I want to make you think. And I also want to challenge you. Because if you're sitting there going, then hopefully there's a light bulb going on for you. So what are you actually measuring? Because otherwise it's a gamble. Marketing is a gamble. Because you don't know what's working. You don't know what's not working. You don't know what's getting you return on investment. You don't know where you're losing money, throwing it away. So no wonder it becomes a challenge. So what are you measuring? If you've got any thoughts, it would be useful for any others to see that, by the way. I'll share some in a moment. But you should have some data. Now, I'm going to reiterate this point, actually, guys, because it is very important. And let's use an analogy here. No one's sharing what they're measuring. Either that means you're not measuring. So hopefully this is a wake-up call for some of you. But I want to reiterate this point. Oh, Chris is sharing. Well, thank you, Chris. Number of website visitors from each of your online platforms. Excellent. So you can see, okay, well, that's brilliant, Chris. You can at least see, right, which platforms are working for you, which platforms are generating traffic to your website. That's fantastically useful data. Paul, cost of the marketing platform against fee generation. Okay, yeah. You can see, right, what am I investing money out, but basically versus money in? That's an ROI measure. Excellent. Yeah, you need something to give you a gauge for what's working and what isn't. Otherwise, it's gambling. And look, I'll use a sporting analogy here. I think this is very important. So imagine you are a world-class athlete, a high-performing athlete. Roger Federer. Let's say you're Roger Federer. And lo and behold, Roger Federer has just lost a game at Wimbledon. I know it didn't happen very often, but let's just say he's lost. Now just think about how a world-class performer would respond to defeat. Would Roger go off and have a mope and think, oh, it's not my day and I'll try harder next time? Maybe it was luck. Is that honestly what Roger Federer does or would think? No. Absolutely not. The first thing a world-class, high-performing person would do is go and look at the data. In fact, you see this across all sport now. There's a lot of them actually looking at the data whilst the game is being played, before it's even over. They're looking at performance data so they can see and understand where to improve. Just hoping for the best or trying harder or doing more is not what high performers do. They look at the data. In fact, data is their competitive advantage because they can use those insights to work out how can they perform at a better level. Where do they need to improve? Where are they strong? Where are they weaker? So that's why I make this point about data. It's all very well going, well, let's go and do some more of this and try this and do that. But if you don't know the data, it is a gamble. So we have a system we use this system to grow businesses that we coach called our 5-way system. And we get our clients to measure 5 key metrics to help them grow their business. And those are the metrics you see there on the screen: leads, conversion rate, a number of transactions, your repeat business, average sale value, and the margins that you're making on your work, your contracts, your projects. And I'll just put some fictitious numbers in there just to illustrate the point here. Now, so as a start point, are you measuring lead numbers? Are you measuring where those leads are coming from? Which marketing channels are generating you those leads? Which ones are not? Are you measuring your sales conversion rate? Now, we're here to talk more about marketing. I talked about that mindset, but I also want to talk about the fact that most owners are not doing this. And actually, so they are gambling, and they're making decisions about fees. They're making decisions about marketing without understanding the data, which is incredibly risky because it's just wasting time and wasting money. Now, the other thing I want to mention here is, I suppose, a common mistake, which is, we need to do more marketing. That's a given. That's why you're here. But there's also 2 other sources of commercial improvement that I just want to flag that you don't overlook. Because marketing takes work, it takes time, it takes money. But are there 2 other sources that actually may be better sources of improvement for you? So if I go back to our 5 ways growth system, 2 areas I want to highlight: conversion rate. That is the proportion of leads that you actually convert into paying clients. What is your conversion rate? Do you know it? And if it's poor or weak, do you have a plan of how to improve it? That your conversion rate is a reflection of one key skill. One key skill: sales. It's a sales skill. It's not a reflection of your fee or, what the appetite was to buy your service. It's a reflection of your sales skills. If I put the world's best salesperson into your practice, they would be converting better than you would. Fact, because they've learnt the skills as professionals. The skills are learnable, by the way. As I said earlier, I was an accountant, never sold anything in my life when I started my business. And as a result, actually, the first year was super challenging financially. Super challenging financially. But so I had to learn. Those skills are learnable. Are you asking enough questions? Do you know how to build trust and rapport with your prospects? Do you know how to handle objections? Or are you just deferring to lowering fees? Do you have a clear sales process? Is it working for you? All these are learnable skills. I know that's not the subject for today, but I just want to make that point. You've got a low conversion rate. It's a reflection of sales skills. By the way, if you've got a high conversion rate, sometimes I'm also worried about that as well. Why? Because it might be an indication your fees are too low. If it's like 70, 80%, it might be too low. The fees might be too low. Just a thought. The other point: margins. So there's no point going out, generating more leads, doing more marketing, if you're not making the right level of margin on the work that you're winning. So that's a reflection, of course, of the fees you're setting and whether those fees are high enough or not. And I'm sure a lot of you'll say, well, it's hard to charge more fees. We'll come on to that in a minute. It's also a reflection of efficiencies. When I look at service businesses and businesses like yours and related businesses in construction, architecture, engineering, margins are always an issue in terms of efficiency and execution. Because the biggest cost in your practices is wages. And so it's a reflection of how efficiently projects and contracts are being executed. Is that being measured? Are people being held to account against that? Systems, training, all that sort of thing. There's a whole raft of measures that can be looked at there to improve the margins. So again, they're just 2 often overlooked areas of improvement. I just wanted to flag. I know they're not the subject for today, but I wanted to highlight them because for some of you, there could be more significant wins in those 2 areas than on lead generation. If there is, that's definitely something that you should be looking at, because that will influence your 5 ways numbers and improvement. Okay, and just to illustrate that, this is one of the practices we coach to this day, that we started up coaching Archeo in 2017. They mainly standard housing and private sector, public sector housing as well. But we focused on those margin strategies actually a lot in their first year of coaching. We didn't grow their top line that much, but their bottom line, they were barely just over break even actually, and their bottom line went up significantly when we looked at fees and project execution efficiencies. So that was the bigger win for them at that time. And then since then, we've gone on to look at more at their marketing planning and all of that and execution. But actually, there was bigger wins for them on profit. Okay, so let's talk about marketing plans. Do you have any kind of marketing plan? I know most of you, a lot of you are not on the video, but you can put yes or no in the chat. Do you have any kind of marketing plan? I'm not talking about necessarily a big, fancy, detailed, glossy document or PDF. I'm talking about something simple and practical. Do you have any kind of plan? Do you need one? And my simple answer is this. Think about your marketing consistency. And what I see in most small businesses, whether they're in your industry or any industry, actually, it's the same. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. It's the same pattern. For most businesses, what happens is they go and do some marketing to win clients. And so the marketing activity goes up. They win clients. They get busy. Marketing activity goes down. And then they go, oh, clients are running out. Work's end drying up. Marketing activity goes up. Repeat, repeat. Peaks and troughs of marketing activity. And what do you think that creates in terms of lead generation and ongoing revenue? It's the same. It's practically impossible to consistently grow a business and consistently keep the number of clients going if your marketing activity is inconsistent. Inconsistent. That's one of the reasons why you should have at least a basic plan. Because the marketing activity should not be reflective of how busy you are. Marketing is a department that's independent of you. The activity should be consistent. If it's lumpy, you're not going to get consistent results with client acquisition. So you should be writing down some key things that need to be happening consistently, irrespective of how much work you've got. Because that's a very common issue. So what do I mean by you should be writing some stuff down? Well, let me share some stuff with you. What would go into a basic marketing plan? This is something that we help people construct in just a few hours. Just a few hours. So who is your target audience? But rather than just generic marketing to anyone, who specifically are you targeting? Why would they buy from you? Why you? Why not somebody else? I'll talk about a bit more about that in a minute. And how? So what marketing channels are you using? I said a minimum of 3 earlier, minimum. So what are your marketing channels? You may be sitting there thinking, I get this question every time, but which marketing works? Parag, which channels work? Simple answer is they all work. That's why they're marketing channels. They all work. The question is, why are they not working for you? It could be it's often a knowledge thing, but there's often other factors there. Consistency's been mentioned. Consistency is a big factor, actually. They all work. Every single marketing channel that you have heard of works. You need to decide which marketing channels you're going to be using and who is responsible. See, let's say you had 5 marketing strategies, guys, and your name was next to each one of them. You can see the problem, can't you? Some of you, maybe your name is next to all of them. You can see the problem. If there's no one else responsible, there's not a clear responsibility in the business for marketing. It's going to be extremely challenging for a business to be doing for a business owner to be doing all their own marketing. Yes, I'm guessing some of you are sole traders. I used to be a sole trader, and that was extremely challenging because you've got to do it all. And yeah, when in those days, and I did have a lot of clients, it was just me. Some weeks I was putting 50 to 60 hours a week of marketing. But that's challenging. So who is responsible? Who else has responsibility? When is this stuff being done? What's the frequency? Depending on which platforms you're using, you're doing blogging or social media channels or whatever it is you're doing, videos or newsletters, how often, when does that stuff happen? Investment, budget. I talked about the fact that most businesses underinvest. Now, the Chartered Institute of Marketing would advocate a 10% investment in marketing, i.e. 10% of your income in marketing. So if you're a 500K business, 50K a year. Now, that includes headcount, that includes whether you've got freelance support, part-time support, agencies, or whatever it is you're using to help you. That includes headcount, as well as actual cash investment. Around 10%. And I would say that, yeah, I would say that's fair. I saw some stats somewhere saying the average SME in this country invests about 6 to 7%. That's the average business. My challenge to you guys is what happens to the average business in this country? I said it earlier when I quoted those stats. Most fail. And I think average is probably not enough, unless you've got some super strategy that's really working for you. Great. But 6 to 10%, in my experience, is not enough. Most of the guys we're coaching, they want to grow. They want to grow consistently, usually at least doubling over 5 years. They want a reasonable level of growth. 5 to 10% is not going to cut it, to be honest. So, but 10% is a good place to start. And ultimately, what's the result you want to get from your marketing? The result is not clients, by the way. The results of any marketing you're doing is lead generation. The job of sales is to convert the lead to a client. Now, it might be the same person in your business, depending on your business, but the job of your marketing is to generate leads. So if you've got someone helping you with this, they need to be measured on lead generation. Whether it's someone in the team, someone externally, the outcome you want is how many leads are being generated from that SEO work or from that social media channel or from that newsletter or from whatever it is you're doing. The ultimate target is leads. Now, you can measure other things as well, yes. But the ultimate result you want is leads. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Maybe vanity. A lot of businesses get hung up on that. Oh, well, my Instagram's blown up and look at all these followers I've got. Yeah, but how many leads are you getting? How many leads are you getting? So are you measuring the number of leads? That's a key thing to understand. Whoever's helping you with your marketing, are you measuring that? Are you measuring how many leads have been generated? So this is the plan. So for those of you who don't have any kind of basic plan, this is what I would advocate that you should be putting together. This does not have to be a 6-month project. I hope you know some of this already, but maybe some of the gaps here is the other bits you need to fill in. Now, I talked about on the previous slide there about your marketing plan is about the value. In other words, why should they buy from you? It's marketing is not just saying what do you do. Your marketing ultimately has to communicate your value proposition. First of all, do you know what your value proposition is? And usually it's vague and woolly or non-existent. It's not what you do. It's why you. Why are you different? Why should someone invest? I think a good way of thinking about it, guys, is why should someone pay a premium for your service? Why should someone do that? That's the question ultimately that your prospects are asking in their minds, whether they ask you directly or not. Why should they pay premium? So if I was to go on any of your websites, would the homepage give any information about, I suppose, the value that you bring? Not just what you do, but why you? Because otherwise, they will see your service as just, it's about price. Who's the cheapest? Will there always be someone cheaper than you? In pretty much every industry, there is always someone cheaper than you. Always. Always. So just playing the game of price matching or fee matching is well, there's only one outcome if that's the default strategy. So that is not something we would advocate. Thinking about the value that you bring. And by the way, the best way of understanding the value, if you're not sure, most people are not clear on this. If you're not sure, the best person to ask is who? The best person who can tell you is your last 5 clients. If you actually asking them and getting inside their minds into terms of why do they buy from you, what was their experience, and what was the value that you really bought, that you brought to them and their project, that's the value that you want to market. Otherwise, the risk is in every industry, everyone just comes across the same. They're saying the same things about their services, and it becomes very hard for the client to make an informed decision about why you. So that's an incredibly important point. Incredibly important point. Now, another point, going back to what marketing you should be doing. Now, I've been sharing this quote now for many years from Seth Godin, a famous author in marketing. Content marketing is the only marketing left. I've been sharing this slide for more than 10 years. Why? Why? I hope that you've all heard of content marketing, of course. The challenge is execution, and are you embracing it and doing it? And maybe that goes back to a bit to the point I mentioned earlier about comfort zones. But yeah, absolutely. Marketing is changing at light speed now, and it has been. And content marketing has been one of the major evolutions over the last few years. So how much content are you putting out there? Now, the channel you use really depends on your audience. It depends on your audience and where they hang out most. So you have to make a decision on which channel to use. Scattergun, I would certainly not advocate. I would get really clear on which channel. So for example, our business and many, any business that's B2B would be using LinkedIn. I'll just use that as an analogy. If you're trying to market to other businesses, LinkedIn is the channel of choice. Now, but the rules of marketing and content apply. Is the content helpful, useful to your audience, adding value? That's what they mean by engaging content. Or is it, and I still see businesses make this mistake, just saying what you do, oh, look at our project today, and we're doing this and we're doing that. That's great, but it's not really educating on the value. And when I talk about value proposition, using these content channels, whichever one you use, is a great way of educating your audience over time on the value that you bring, assuming your content is helpful and valuable. If it's not, you will switch people off big time. Literally switch people off. But if it's helpful and valuable, then it's a great way. And now it takes time. And I want to share your story with you on this, because we use LinkedIn, many of our clients do, and we actually created a little private group for 25 of us joined this group, and we all made a commitment to each other. We'd post at least once a week on LinkedIn. That was our commitment to each other to make sure we all kept each other on track. And the interesting thing over the last year is that all but four of those people who made that commitment have failed horribly, not even got close. And so the learning from that is that most people are using these channels inconsistently. Like LinkedIn, and going back to this education point, once a week is not enough, actually. Once a week's not really enough to generate leads. So you should know what the optimal number of posts is for whatever channel you're using. If it's LinkedIn, it's usually at least 3. Some would say 3 to 5 times a week. It will be different for Instagram. It will be, I don't know what the optimal number is for Instagram. You can look that up. Or whatever channel you're using, what is the optimal number? But my observation was most of the people that we had in this group weren't even hitting once a week. So they were just inconsistent, and therefore they're not getting results. So consistency wins. It's a trust building game. Marketing and lead generation, there's been studies done on this now, and because of the evolution of online marketing, more and more people are doing their due diligence online before they ever inquire. In other words, they're checking you out. They're cautious. They want to feel that you are a safe bet, and therefore they're looking at your content. They're looking at what you're putting out there on YouTube. I mean, should you be using video content? Yes. Still vastly underutilized by most. It's a great way of showcasing, whether it's video testimonials or showcasing your projects or interviews to talk about how a project was set up or executed. Should you be using video for that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, there's lots of options here, what type of content you can use: podcasts, videos, interviews, or we could go on. But the consistencies matter, which is why when we go back to my point about the plan needs to find which channels and how often. So if it's LinkedIn, is it how many posts per week? If it's a newsletter, how many newsletters per month? If it's YouTube, how many pieces of content? I mean, even 3 to 5 pieces of content a week, it's still minimal compared to the people who are getting phenomenal results online with their marketing. So, but yeah, my observation is consistency is not there for most businesses, which goes back to the plan. It goes back to who's helping you as well. Do you need to involve, if you're not involving anyone else in the marketing, is that a decision you need to make after today? And the other point I want to make, just around marketing performance, I think a very simple, common mistake to overcome is this concept of social proof. So this is a term from psychology, and social proof talks about the fact that as human beings, our behavior is we tend to follow the crowd. In other words, if something's popular or desirable, we tend to follow what other people do. And yeah, there's books written on this concept of social proof. But my point here is, how can you apply this in your businesses? How can you apply the concept of social proof in your businesses? And the answer to that is very simply, ratings and reviews, and testimonials. So if you think about a business, if I was looking at your business, I just want to ask you, how many online reviews do you have, for example? Whichever platform, I mean, whether it's a Google review or other types of reviews. I mean, Google reviews are great. because Google want you to use their review system. And if you use their review system, it will help you with your visibility online. Are you using Google reviews or some other form of review platform? Because the thing I want you to think about is imagine you're this business. So you're looking at a business here or purchase, and they've got 56 reviews, 96% are 5-star. There's a couple of 2 stars. But generally, if you were looking to buy from a business with that review profile, what would you think? What level of trust would you have with that business? What level of that word again? Trust. And I would have thought trust would be quite high. 4.9 out of 5, lots of reviews. So my challenge is therefore, if you looked at your business online, how many reviews would you see? And what impression do you think that's creating? Even for a referred lead, do you think someone referred to you might actually Google you, might look for some reviews? Referred or not, that's, as I said earlier, people are doing their due diligence. Of course, they're going to want to look at reviews. Are they seeing anything? This is something you can easily fix. Easily fixed. Doesn't cost you any money. Nothing. It just needs a focus. It needs to go in the plan to say, right, we should be getting more of this type of reviews every month. Who's responsible? How many reviews are we looking to get? Simple, quick, easy fix. That was my big goal. So if that's something you can rectify, please take a note. I hope you're taking notes here, and that you're thinking about what you can do, not what lies outside of yourself. What can you do differently here? That was my point. Because if I go back to this 5 ways model and looking at some of these metrics that you should be tracking, the point here, there's an interesting point to make. What if you were able to start making some changes with your marketing, with your sales skills, maybe also with your project margins, make some positive improvements? And what if you were able to improve each of those metrics by 10% per annum? A very interesting thing happens. 10% more leads, 10% better at conversion, a little bit better. So it's just a 10% incremental improvement, charging a little bit more, the value propositions being better communicated on your website, through your content, in your sales process. It's really clear, you're differentiated, bit better on margins. If you look at the income of that business, 200 to 292, that's a 46% improvement on income. Now, how is that possible? The reason that's happened, it's called compounding. Small changes across multiple areas have compounded up. So you've got 46% on revenue, 61% on profit, because you've made small changes across multiple areas. So if you've got a few multiple changes from today that are staring at you on your pad, on your notes, highlight them, take them forward, because they may seem small, but if they're consistently done over time, those improvements add up. So yeah, I mean, look, I know these numbers. These are just fictitious numbers, by the way, guys. I'm just doing it for illustration purposes. It doesn't matter if you're a 200K business. Doesn't matter if you're a £2 million business. It's irrelevant. What the concept here is compounding. Small changes across multiple areas compounds up. So the question then is what are those small changes that you can make and take away from today? This is a graph I took from James Clear's book Atomic Habits, which talks about this concept basically, and the power of compounding small changes over time. That in the short term, those small improvements, you may not necessarily see huge traction in your numbers, but if they're done consistently over time, they aggregate, they compound, and therefore the improvements are accelerated. And that's a challenge for many businesses, because they make this these changes, and maybe some people are impatient. They expect their numbers to explode in 3 months, and no, it's over time. And even as I mentioned in our business, we quadrupled over 10 years, but that didn't mean the revenue just jumped up in 3 months. I'm talking about 10 years to get that huge impact. So I hope that's and yeah, I've just seen obviously I'm trying to share as much information with you as possible rather than just reading the notes in the chat. But yeah, I can just see Martin's note there at the end, and maybe my concept at the start about taking ownership for your performance, and maybe that's really resonating for some of you, because ultimately there is only one person responsible, and that may be a bitter pill to swallow for many. It is, but ultimately that's the solution, and that's all I can advocate for you today, is to take something away from today and use it and do something with it. Try it. Just try it. Guess what? It might work for you. It might, because this is genuinely stuff that we're using with businesses every day. So it might work for you. Most of this is simple stuff. I'm not going into deep, complex strategies here. So just try it. If you choose not to, that's fine. But I'd love you to, just to get, so you get you maybe get something from this hour. So if you've got something, you've got 1 or 2 things you want to try, please write those down. Please, just take that away, give it a go, embrace it, and try it and take action. Nothing's going to change if we don't take actions. Einstein's definition of insanity: doing the same thing over again and hoping for a different result. So thank you. What I'd leave you with is a last, I mentioned at the start, for those of you who found this useful, if my questions have made you think, made you sit up, or even made you think, well, I need to change something here urgently, we do offer this one-to-one session. It's a coaching session, it's not a chat. So we will ask you to fill in some information about your business. So there's a 5-minute questionnaire there on the screen, and we just need to know, where do you need help, basically? What's your business? Where do you need help? It could be on sales and marketing. It might be on something else. It could be to do with the team. It could be to do with overwhelm. But obviously, if there's things coming up today that you want to address, bespoke, one-to-one, then we do offer that. And look, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. It's a genuine source of help. And if you want to do that, and you're like, right, okay, well, what's this coaching thing all about? Great, we can explore that. If you don't, you just want some help, this is a genuine offer. I'm just going to put the link here in the chat as well, if you want to take us up on that. But there is a 5 to 10 minute questionnaire, just so we can prepare for that session. And we can help you. So we do need to know a little bit about where you want help. There's 4 coaches in our team, so any one of the 4 of us will help you, depending on diary availabilities. That will all be sorted out when you fill out the questionnaire. So thank you. And I'll just reiterate my point again, is to take some action. Is to do one thing positively that's different, that you can try. 1 or 2 things, it's up to you. I really, really hope you can do that. And also we look forward to speaking to some of you one-to-one as well, and helping you further in a more bespoke way. But otherwise, congratulations on your time today. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to helping you again. Thank you.